Have you ever wondered why so many people die between the ages of 80 and why do these 3 years seem like an invisible barrier that many cannot overcome? The answer to this question will shock you because it has nothing to do with what most people think. It is not the heart that suddenly fails, it is not the bones that break, it is not even cancer or other serious illnesses. The real cause is much more subtle, much more insidious, and tragically completely preventable if you know what to look for. Statistics from across Europe show a frightening pattern. The mortality rate rises dramatically between the ages of 80 and 83, not because of a single cause, but because of a perfect storm of 5 biological and psychological factors that come together at this age. These 5 factors reinforce each other so strongly that they often lead to death within a few months or even weeks. The tragic thing is that almost no one, neither doctors, relatives, nor those affected themselves, recognizes these warning signs in time. They are dismissed as normal signs of aging, when in reality they are harbingers of a deadly vicious circle. What I am showing you today is based on decades of research in geriatrics and gerontology. These findings are normally only discussed in medical circles, but I believe that everyone 56 people over the age of 75 and their relatives have the right to know this vital information. The 5th factor I will present to you at the end is so surprising and yet so commonplace that you are probably affected by it right now without even realizing it. This one factor is responsible for over 60% of all deaths in the 80 to 83 age group, and yet it is completely overlooked by most doctors. But here's the good news. Each of these 5 deadly factors can be recognized, treated, and even completely avoided if you know how. People who take these warning signs seriously and take action not only survive these critical years, but often live healthy and active lives well into their 90s. If you have already reached 80 or are approaching it, if you have relatives of this age, or if you simply want to understand how you can successfully survive this dangerous phase, then stay with us until the end, because this information could literally mean the difference between life and death. The first deadly factor, silent muscle loss, reaches a critical point. The first and perhaps most underestimated factor, killing people between the ages of 50 and 83, is something that most people consider harmless, extreme muscle loss, medically known as sarcopenia. But we are not talking about the normal gradual muscle loss that begins in our 60s. We are talking about a dramatic, accelerated loss that reaches a critical point around the age of 80, reaches a critical point. By the age of 80, most people have already lost 40 to 50% of their original muscle mass. That sounds like a lot, but the body can still cope with it to some extent. People lose another 20 to 30% of their remaining muscle mass. This is the point at which the body enters a critical state. This extreme sarcopenia is not just a cosmetic problem or a question of physical strength. It triggers a cascade of life-threatening problems that reinforce each other. The immune system becomes dramatically weaker because muscles produce important immune cells. Metabolism breaks down because muscles are the engine that burns calories. Bones become brittle because they need the strain of strong muscles to remain stable. Most dangerous, however, is the effect on the respiratory muscles. The small muscles between the ribs and the diaphragm become so weak that they can no longer work effectively. The result? A gradual, often unnoticed lack of oxygen, which weakens all organs and makes them susceptible to infections. I remember Mr. Weber, who came to me because he simply felt weak. During the examination, we found that his muscle mass had decreased by an alarming 25% in the last 2 years, and his respiratory capacity had been reduced by 40% without him even noticing. 3 months later, he died of pneumonia, not because the infection was so severe, but because his respiratory muscles were too weak to cough effectively and clear his lungs. The insidious thing about this extreme muscle wasting is that it progresses gradually. People get used to their declining strength, adapt their activities, and don't notice that they are approaching a critical point. They go for fewer walks because it becomes exhausting. They ask for help carrying things more often, and they get up from their chairs less often. Each of these adjustments further accelerates muscle wasting. The warning signs of critical sarcopenia are clear, but are often overlooked. Inability to get up from a normal chair without help. Walking speed below 0.8 meters per second, which means you need more than 12.5 seconds to walk 10 meters, weight loss of more than 5% in 1 year, even if your appetite is normal, frequent falls or near falls because your leg muscles are too weak to react quickly. The critical point is reached when muscle mass falls below 30% of its original value. From this point on, the body no longer maintains basic functions, and minor stresses such as infection, a fall, or surgery can be fatal because there are no reserves left. The tragic thing is that this extreme muscle loss is preventable in most cases and even reversible, even at the age of 80 plus. Studies show that people over 80 can increase their muscle mass by 15 to 20% with the right intervention, but the process must be recognized and taken seriously before the critical point is reached. The second deadly factor, social isolation, leads to biological collapse. And the second factor that kills people between the ages of 80 and 83 is one that most doctors are not aware of, even though it has medically measurable fatal effects: extreme social isolation. We are not talking about occasional loneliness or the natural withdrawal that comes with age. We are talking about complete social isolation, which reaches a critical point around the age of 80. By the age of 80, most people have already lost a large part of their social network. Their spouse has often passed away, siblings are ill or dead, old friends are no longer around, and their own children are busy with their own lives and visit less frequently. What remains is often a frightening silence that lasts week after week, month after month. This extreme isolation is not just a psychological problem, it changes the body at a cellular level. Research shows that chronic vigilance weakens the immune system just as much as chronic stress or serious illnesses. The production of inflammatory molecules increases dramatically, while the activity of our most important defense cells, the natural killer cells, against cancer and infections by up to 70%. Even more dangerous is the effect on the cardiovascular system. Social isolation increases the risk of heart attack and stroke by 50%, which is more than smoking or obesity. The chronic stress of loneliness raises blood pressure, changes the heart rhythm, and makes the blood vessels fragile. Mrs. Schmidt, 20 years old, lived completely alone after the death of her husband. Her children lived far away and only called once a week. She had hardly any neighbors. Most of them had also died or moved away. For days she spoke to no one. When I examined her, her stress hormones were permanently elevated and her immune system had practically collapsed. She died 6 months later from what was actually a harmless flu. Her body simply had no strength left to fight. The insidious thing about social isolation in old age is its self-reinforcing nature. The lonelier people become, the more difficult it is for them to establish or maintain social contacts. They lose social skills, become more anxious, and withdraw even further. At the same time, physical weakness makes it harder to leave the house or engage in activities. The biological effects are measurable and deadly: chronically elevated cortisol levels that destroy the immune system, disturbed sleep patterns that prevent regeneration, loss of appetite, and weight loss that further weaken the body, cognitive deterioration due to lack of mental stimulation, and depression that exacerbates all other health problems. Studies show that people over 80 who have social contact less than once a week have a 3 to 5 times higher mortality rate than socially active people of the same age. This is not just correlation, it is direct causality. Isolation literally kills you. The warning signs of deadly social isolation are less than one meaningful social contact per week, no regular interaction with family or friends, days or weeks without spoken words, loss of interest in social activities, withdrawal from previously important relationships. The critical point is reached when people go weeks without any social contact. From this point on, a biological collapse begins that is often irreversible. The body interprets complete isolation as a threat to life and shuts down all non-essential systems, including the immune system and the ability to regenerate. But even here there is hope. Even small, regular social contacts can stop or reverse this deadly process. A daily phone call, a weekly visit, or participation in a group can mean the difference between life and death. The third deadly factor is the complete collapse of the sleep-wake cycle. The third deadly factor for people between the ages of 50 and 70 is at risk is a complete breakdown of the natural sleep-wake cycle. This is much more than just poor sleep. It is a fundamental disruption of the biological clock that controls all vital functions of the body. By the age of 70, most people have already suffered from deteriorating sleep quality for years, but around this age, something dramatic often happens. The circadian rhythm, our internal biological clock, breaks down. People sleep for hours during the day, are wide awake at night, eat at impossible times, and lose all sense of time. This disruption of rhythm is not only annoying, it is deadly. Our bodies are programmed for certain functions to occur at certain times. At night, cells should regenerate, and the immune system should work, and the brain should cleanse itself of toxins. When this rhythm breaks down, these vital processes no longer function. The consequences are devastating. The immune system becomes chronically weak because it can no longer work in its natural rhythm. The metabolism is completely disrupted, leading to dangerous blood sugar fluctuations. Hormone production collapses. Cortisol, melatonin, and growth hormones are produced at the wrong time or not at all. The most dangerous effect is on the cardiovascular system. The normal nighttime drop in blood pressure no longer occurs, and the heart is under stress 24 hours a day. heart rhythm disturbances become more frequent and dangerous, and the risk of heart attack and stroke increases by 400%. Mr. Fischer, 83 years old, came to me because his family was worried about him. He slept 4 to 6 hours in his armchair at noon, was wide awake from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., and wandered around the apartment. He ate his dinner at 4 a.m. and was completely disoriented about the time of day. Within 3 months, he developed severe cardiac arrhythmia and died of sudden cardiac arrest. His body had lost all sense of time. The collapse of the sleep-wake cycle is often triggered by several factors: lack of natural light, because people no longer go outside regularly, side effects of medications that affect sleep, pain or illnesses that prevent normal sleep, social isolation, leading to disorientation. The insidious thing is that the more disturbed the rhythm becomes, the more difficult it is to correct it. People try to sleep during the day to compensate for sleepless nights, which further disrupts their rhythm. They take sleeping pills at the wrong time, or in the wrong dosage. They eat irregularly, which further disrupts the metabolic rhythm. The warning signs of critical rhythm disorders are regular daytime sleep of more than 2 hours, nighttime wakefulness lasting several hours, meals at completely irregular times, disorientation regarding the time of day or day of the week, reversal of the day-night rhythm. The critical point is reached when people have completely lost their natural rhythm and live in a state of permanent temporal confusion. From this point on, vital bodily functions can no longer be coordinated, and the body begins to systematically fail. However, there are ways to intervene. Morning light therapy can stabilize the rhythm. Fixed meal times help the body to orient itself. Regular activities at the same time of day provide structure. Avoiding daytime sleep can improve nighttime sleep. If you are still watching this video and find this valuable information, please write the number 3 in the comments below to show that you are here and listening attentively. If you have not yet subscribed, I would be very happy if you would subscribe and activate the bell so that you don't miss any important videos. Your support helps us to continue sharing life-saving health information. The fourth deadly factor, medication chaos, is getting out of control. The fourth factor that kills people between the ages of 80 and 83 is one of the most underestimated: completely uncontrolled medication chaos, which often reaches a critical and deadly point at this age. We're not talking about 1 or 2 medications with side effects. We're talking about a complex, dangerous cocktail of 10 or even 20 different drugs that reinforce each other, block each other, or lead to unpredictable reactions. Most people over 80 take an average of 12 to 15 different medications every day. Prescription drugs, over-the-counter painkillers, vitamins, dietary supplements, drops, ointments. Each individual medication was originally prescribed for a specific problem, but no one, neither the patient nor the doctor, has an overview of the overall effect of this complex mixture. The problem is drastically exacerbated by age-related changes in metabolism. By the age of 70 years, the liver and kidneys only function at 50 to 60% of their original capacity. Medications are broken down more slowly, accumulate in the body, and reach dangerous concentrations. What used to be a safe dose can suddenly become toxic. This is particularly dangerous in so-called prescription cascades, where one medication causes side effects that are treated with a second medication, whose side effects require a third medication, and so on. A single blood pressure medication quickly becomes 5 different drugs that all interact with each other. Mrs. Hoffman, 81 years old, came to me with chronic dizziness. When I listed her medications, I counter me with chronic dizziness. When I listed her medications, I counter me with chronic dizziness. When I listed her medications, I counter me with chronic dizziness. One war klachten kritter nabi of the loyally at folistagration, man beter proof meme da beada. One has their notes bludgeted tisuum. 18 different drugs, blood pressure medication, blood thinners, painkillers, sleeping pills, antidepressants, vitamins, digestive aids and more. 3 different doctors had prescribed these independently of each other, without knowing what the others had prescribed. The interactions caused dangerous fluctuations in blood pressure, which led to falls, and ultimately to severe head trauma. The most common fatal drug interactions in people over 80 years of age are: blood thinners combined with painkillers lead to internal bleeding. Blood pressure medication intensified by painkillers cause dangerous drops in blood pressure. Sleeping pills combined with other sedative medications lead to respiratory arrest. Multiple diuretic medications cause dangerous electrolyte imbalances. The insidious thing is that the symptoms are often not recognized as medication poisoning, but as new illnesses and treated with even more medication. Confusion is diagnosed as dementia, weakness is dismissed as old age, and falls are treated as accidents. No one thinks of medication as the cause. It becomes particularly dangerous when people switch between different doctors or are admitted to hospital. Medication lists become incomplete, dosages change, new medications are added without the old ones being discontinued, and chaos reigns supreme. The warning signs of critical medication chaos include taking more than 10 different medications daily, frequent unexplained symptoms such as dizziness, confusion, or weakness,
regular falls with no apparent cause, and different doctors prescribing medications independently of each other, without an up-to-date, complete medication list. The critical point is reached when the side effects and interactions become so severe that they damage vital organs. The liver and kidneys can no longer cope with the medication load, and the heart reacts with dangerous arrhythmias, and the brain is damaged by the toxic load. Studies show that over 30% of hospital admissions of people over 80 are due to medication side effects or interactions. Many of these cases are fatal, even though they could have been completely avoided. The solution lies in a systematic medication review. All medications check for interactions, discontinue unnecessary preparations, and adjust dosages. Often, 15 medications can be reduced to 5 to 7 that are really necessary, dramatically improving quality of life and averting life-threatening situations. The fifth deadly factor, loss of appetite, leads to rapid organ failure. Now we come to the fifth and perhaps most surprising factor that kills people between the ages of 80 and 83. Extreme loss of appetite leads to rapid organ failure. This is the factor 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 organ failure. I mentioned at the beginning that contributes to over 60% of all deaths in this age group, but is completely overlooked by most doctors. We are not talking about occasional lack of appetite or small portions. We are talking about a dramatic, persistent refusal to eat, which often begins so gradually that no one notices until it is too late. By the age of 80, most people have already experienced various age-related changes that affect their appetite. The sense of taste and smell has deteriorated, saliva production is reduced, and digestion has slowed down. But around the age of 80, these factors often add up to a perfect storm of loss of appetite. Added to this are psychological factors, such as loneliness when eating, because a partner has died, loss of cooking skills, or motivation to cook, depression and hopelessness, rob them of any enjoyment of food, fear of choking or digestive problems. The result is devastating. People begin to consume only enough calories to survive, when they need 1,500 to 2,000. The body goes into survival mode and begins to digest itself. First fat is broken down, then muscles, and finally even organ tissue. Mr. Schneider, 82, lived alone after his wife died. Cooking for one person seemed pointless to him. Food no longer tasted good. He often forgot to eat altogether, or made do with a piece of bread. Within 6 months, he lost 20 pounds. When his daughter finally took him to the hospital, his organs were already so weakened that he died of a simple urinary tract infection. His body had no reserves left. The biological effects of extreme malnutrition are dramatic and often irreversible. The immune system collapses because no proteins are available for antibody production. Wound healing stops because the body has no energy for repairs. The muscles, including the heart muscle, are broken down, and the bones become brittle due to a lack of calcium and other minerals. The most dangerous effect is on the organs. The liver can no longer produce proteins, which leads to water retention. The kidneys no longer function properly, which leads to signs of poisoning. The heart becomes weak and irregular, and the brain suffers from nutrient deficiency, causing confusion and delirium. The insidious thing about age-related loss of appetite is its self-reinforcing nature. The less someone is, the weaker they become. The weaker they become, the less appetite they have. The less they have, the worse food tastes. A vicious circle develops that often leads to death within a few months. The warning signs of life-threatening loss of appetite are weight loss of more than 10% in 6 months. Meals are regularly skipped or 26
of malnutrition, such as sunken cheeks or protruding bones. The critical point is reached when the daily calorie intake falls below 800 calories and remains so for weeks. From this point on, the body begins to damage vital organs in order to survive. This process is often irreversible, even if nutrition is improved. Studies show that malnutrition is present in over 50% of people over the age of 80, but is only diagnosed in 20% of cases. Most doctors focus on obvious illnesses and overlook the creeping malnutrition that exacerbates all these illnesses and often causes them. Intervention must be early, regular weight checks, support with shopping and cooking, social meals, appetite-stimulating measures, sometimes small changes, such as a visit to eat, lovingly prepared favorite dishes, and nutritional supplements can stop the deadly course. What is deadly about these 5 factors is not only their individual effect, but the way they reinforce each other and create an unstoppable vicious circle. Each individual factor makes the others worse until the body completely breaks down. Extreme muscle loss leads to weakness and falls, which leads to more medication. Social isolation increases depression, which further reduces appetite. The medication causes drowsiness, which disrupts the sleep-wake cycle. Loss of appetite weakens the muscles even more, and the disturbed sleep patterns increase social isolation, within a few months, a self-reinforcing cycle of decline develops that is often impossible to stop. The body has no reserves left to cope with even the slightest strain. The good news, each of these 5 factors can be identified and treated if you take the warning signs seriously and act in time against critical muscle loss. Daily exercise, even if only for 10 minutes, and a protein-rich diet can help. Essential strength training with light weights or your own body weight can work wonders, even in people over 80 against social isolation. You should organize regular phone calls, look for community activities, and consider getting pets that can provide valuable company. Volunteer visiting services are available in many communities for healthy sleep. Develop a fixed routine, get some sunlight in the morning, avoid screens in the evening, and stick to regular meal times. For medication management, make a complete list of all medications, check it regularly with your doctor, and stop taking unnecessary medications to boost your appetite. With your doctor regularly and discontinue any unnecessary medications. To promote appetite, eat with others whenever possible, prepare meals with love, get professional help with cooking if necessary, and monitor your weight regularly. The years between 70 and 100 don't have to be fatal. People who are aware of these 5 factors and actively address them not only survive this critical phase but often live well into their 90s in good health and with a good quality of life. The key lies in early detection and timely action. Do not ignore subtle changes as normal accogtin. Take warning signs seriously. Get help before it's too late. If you found this information valuable, share it with people who might need it. A single conversation, a timely visit to the doctor, a small change in everyday life can mean the difference between life and death. Thank you for watching. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe and activate the bell for more vital information. Your support saves lives. You can find this information as text in the video description. Share this knowledge.